Maryland Governor Larry Hogan joins us. Now, Governor, we'll get to that in a moment, but first I do want to ask you about COVID, because you're calling for an end to mask mandates in Maryland schools. The State Board of Education says it will review mask requirements later this month. The CDC is still recommending universal masking in schools. So who should school officials and parents be listening to, you or the CDC?
Well, we've got the lowest case rate in America in Maryland, and we're, really making tremendous progress. We lifted our statewide mask mandate back last May, but the school systems, which are autonomous and have their own authority, I don't really have direct control over them, but we're recommending very strongly that they lift it, and that's what all of our epidemiologists and virologists and public health doctors are suggesting. And yes, I do think the CDC is, far behind. They've had confusing and delayed decision-making, confusing guidance, and, I think there's general consensus. We were at the White House with all the governors a week or so ago, and it's nearly universal bipartisan support for moving forward and putting this thing behind us and not living in fear of the virus, but finding a way to live with it. And it's going to be an endemic for a long time, but the kids have suffered so much, and I think the CDC will likely have to take action, but in the meantime, I believe our schools, our State Board of Education is going to act in the next week or so to move forward and take masks off the kids.
And just to be clear, when you say kids have suffered, you're referring to kids being isolated because they're learning at home, yes. the costs of masking, where kids can't even see their faces of their friends, and the low risk for children.
Look, I was one of the ones that was, pushing all of the mitigation efforts. I think we had one of the best responses in America, but I believe now we're at the point where the kids just are having difficulty catching up and learning. We had all of the closures, people trying to work remotely, now working with masking. And I think it's safe enough for kids to just try to get back to normal.
You dashed the hopes of Republican leaders in Washington this week when you announced that you're not going to run for Senate this November. The New York Times reports that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell deployed Senators Susan Collins and Mitt Romney to try to convince you. McConnell even had his wife lobby your wife. If you want to help change the direction of the Republican Party and provide a model for pragmatic, fact-based conservative leadership, isn't the U.S. Senate a better place for that kind of activity than being an ex-governor?
Well, look, first of all, I was very flattered that they were expressing interest and encouraging me to run, and certainly made the argument that I could be a voice of reason and sanity in Washington. But I just have never had a desire to be a U.S. Senator, and my heart wasn't in it. And I still have another year to be governor of Maryland. I want to focus on finishing that job strong, and then we'll take a look at what happens after that in 2023. But I listened. It was good reasoning and logic, but I just didn't see myself. I've been a lifelong executive. I have much more power as governor of Maryland. I make decisions every day that impact people's lives, and I like to get things done. And in Washington, it seems as if there's just a lot of divisiveness and dysfunction, and not a lot gets done. So it wasn't the right fit for me.
Do you agree with New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, another Republican who also rejected a Senate run, that Washington Republicans, in his view, are too focused on being a, quote, roadblock to Biden and not focused enough on actually getting things done?
I think they're, sometimes focused on the wrong things, not just being a roadblock to Biden. I mean, there are certain things that we want to stand up to President Biden. The inflation is out of control, and we're talking about billions and more trillions and more spending. We want to make sure that we do stand up and speak out. But I'm concerned that they're focusing too much on looking at the past and trying to relitigate the last election and arguing about things instead of having a positive, hopeful vision for America.
So shortly after you made that announcement, your nonprofit advocacy group and America United released this video.
To those who say that America is too divided, I would argue that we have already shown a better path forward. Let's continue to set an example for the rest of the nation so that America can once again be a shining example to the world.
That's a nice video. It just lacked the Hogan 2024 banner at the bottom. Are you considering a presidential run?
Well, we put out great videos like that almost every week. That was taken from my State of the State address last week, and it's pretty well done. But like I said, I'm going to run through the tape as governor till January of next year. I'm going to try to be the very best governor I can be. I'm going to continue to stand up and be a voice. I'm not going to sit back and not be involved in the issues of the day. I'm concerned about the direction of the party and the country, and I'll make a decision about 2024 after I finish this job.
So you are considering it?
Well, so we're certainly going to take a look at it after January of 23.
What makes you think that there's a lane for a moderate-ish, blue state, anti-Trump, sane Republican like you when you look at your party right now?
Well, I consider myself a common-sense conservative. I have been a lifelong Republican. I believe that that's where most people in America are. About 70% of the people in America are completely frustrated with politics on both sides, the Republicans and Democrats. And latest CNN poll came out and said, right now only 50% of the Republicans would like to see Donald Trump run again. I believe that there is a pretty large lane of sane Republicans, and they're looking for a voice.
Let's take a look at something you told me on this show almost exactly a year ago.
I think the final chapter of Donald Trump and where the Republican Party goes hasn't been written yet, and I think we're going to have a real battle for the soul of the Republican Party over the next couple of years.
So as you note, there's a new CNN poll out this morning showing that about a half Republican voters want Trump to be the nominee in 2024, but that means a half don't. But also, CNN polling shows 3/4 of Republican voters don't think election results reflect the will of the people. Republican candidates up and down the ballot are actively lying about the election in 2020. And the Republican Party just declared, the RNC, in a censure declaration against Kinzinger and Cheney, who I imagine are two House Republicans you respect and admire.
Yep.
They just declared January 6th, quote, legitimate political discourse. So the battle for the soul of the Republican Party, are you losing it?
Well, I think we've still got a long way to go. Like I said, we have until 2024. Right now, I think we've made tremendous progress because we went from about 80-some% that wanted to reelect Donald Trump to 50. That's a huge drop. But yes, I've been speaking out loudly and strongly about this battle for the soul of the party. To say it's legitimate political discourse to attack the seat of our Capitol and smash windows and attack police officers and threaten to hang the vice president and threaten to overthrow the election, it's insanity. And, there's a circular firing squad where we attack Republicans. The Republican Party that I want to get back to is the one that believes in freedom and truth and not one that attacks people who don't swear 100% fealty to the dear leader.
The National Archives wants the Justice Department to look into former President Trump's handling of White House records after it was revealed he frequently tore up documents and took at least 15 boxes of official documents, including potentially classified material, with him to Mar-a-Lago. Republicans spent years attacking Hillary Clinton for her handling of government records, but I don't hear anything coming from Capitol Hill. Again, always Kinzinger and Cheney accepted. But I don't hear anything from Republican leaders. What do you say to voters out there, maybe like ticket splitters, who say, hey, I agreed with Republicans when they expressed concern about Hillary Clinton and how she handled classified material, but there's no one saying anything about how Donald Trump did it. So did they actually even care about this issue?
Well, I'm not sure that no one's talking about it. It's certainly been in the news a lot lately. The fact that Republican leaders are not standing up, just like they're not standing up to talk about the lies on the election or what happened on January 6th, it is very concerning, which is why I continue to speak out. And I can just tell you, I feel as if there are more and more people. You saw more people speak out after the RNC took the action. It was a step too far. Even people that big supporters of the president said we can't censure people because they don't agree with us 100%, because they stand up for what they believe in. And there were, I think, 140 elected Republicans who came out against that. So we're making progress, but it's slow. But a year, 2 years is an eternity in politics, and I'm still hopeful we can change things.
Yeah, and I just want to remind people, Governor Hogan's dad, Congressman Larry Hogan Sr., is somebody who you might want to go on Google and read up about because he showed tremendous courage standing up against the insanities of the Nixon administration. And every time you're here, I think about him.
Well,
I'm sure you do too.
I sure do, and thank you for mentioning him.
Yeah, good to see you.